Well, it is my first show in quite a while here on Spreaker, and, well, what have I been up to, or what has the greater world been up to? Well, Margaret Thatcher died. She has been both revered and reviled by many in the media and the public at large. My thoughts are, she was a great leader that did a lot of things that probably needed to be done, but maybe she went to extremes. Probably in some cases she did. I think that she probably was much more divisive than Reagan was and didn't have the congeniality and the charisma that Reagan had. She strikes me as the kind of woman, if you called her a bitch, she'd smile and take it as a compliment. It to me, I respect that, but at the same time, some of the things she did, it's one of those things. Maybe it was a good thing she kind of broke up the unions, because I think in a lot of ways the unions had way too much power in England back then. But it's almost as if she wanted to completely destroy them instead of, doing what probably should have been done, was a lot of reform. But unfortunately, a lot of people here in the United States have been influenced. I mean, now they're talking about a bill in the House, I think they've already submitted it, which would basically eliminate overtime, or where businesses could basically find ways to get around the overtime rules. There is a reason why they put overtime rules in, so that people could actually have a life outside of work. Basically it's the best way to balance productivity and allowing people to have a life outside of working their asses off 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, for little or for hardly anything. If you know your history, especially your labor history, then you know that back in the dawn of the last century, around the late 1800s, early 1900s, labor unions were just in their infancy. And the same crap we hear today about socialism and communism, this is way before Lenin and all this really took off. I mean, it was basically this version of, well, if we give the workers anything, it's going to lead to socialism and it's going to destroy American productivity. Why is it that when we had the good times, allegedly, or at least economically, or it felt like it at least, the rich were taxed and the corporations were taxed pretty high? Now, the corporations and the rich are taxed relatively low, and the rich are finding ways to get around those taxes by sending their money overseas in offshore bank accounts. And yet we have a financial crisis, a fiscal crisis. I wonder how that is. Is it because of welfare? Not necessarily. Because of Social Security? No, not necessarily. Medicare? No, not necessarily. Education? No. Healthcare? Obamacare? Not really. It's because the people that should have been paying taxes success, that you should not be inhibited in any way, shape, or form by the government. But if you're not, you got to pay the piper. Now, how the hell is that fair? How the hell is that going to help build a middle class that will sustain this republic? If you look at third world countries, you have a very elite rich class that pays little or no taxes, that pretty much is got the government feeding the government out of their hands, and basically the poor people are treated like shit. That's what happens in those countries. A lot of violent things, Violent coups can tend to happen. Why do you think the socialists came to being anyway? Why do you think communism became popular? Because they realized that they could take over what from these bureaucrats and aristocrats and monarchs and all this in Russia, and they could make things better, allegedly. Well, unfortunately, they were just as bad, because they realized that when they got power, power means affluence, and basically the people were just as screwed. We have to have a balance, and that's the problem. The Democrats, for the most part, are actually proposing pretty much a balance. It's the Republicans who have everybody thinking that Obamacare is socialism. And I'm not talking about the Western European socialism that was maybe a little too extreme, maybe a little too crippling to the economy. Not really crippling, but a little too restrictive on the economy. But people were healthy in Europe, or still healthy in Europe, and they live longer, they're much happier, they get paid better. Why can't we have that here? No, that's because they're dirty Europeans. We're America. Americans are supposed to be all about freedom, especially if you're rich and you own a big-ass corporation. You know, the corporations, the idea, the concept of a corporation is a bad thing. It's when they start merging together and become these mega Goliath type, gigantic, huge businesses that go way beyond their original intent that becomes the problem. When you have banks merging together, or there's only a few banks left nationally, where's the competition? Where's the competition when there's only like 3 or 4 major cable companies anymore? Where's the competition when you have only 6 media companies, when at one time there were 50? Now, yeah, granted, you've got the internet, which is revolutionizing things, but still, it has to run through cable or through telecom lines, phone lines. Satellite internet is spotty at best. Trust me, I used to work in electronics at Walmart. I had to deal with people who bought HughesNet internet systems, and they suck. Slower than dial-up I've heard in many cases, or about as fast as dial-up. But here's the thing, and I want you fine folks to understand this. We are evolving technologically right now. We have the capabilities, scientifically, to prolong life, to do amazing things. But you see, if people are healthy, then how do you make money in healthcare? If people are well educated and responsible, how do you make money in prisons when they are respectful and they obey the law? And now, I'm all for regulated within reason healthcare systems that basically where, you can make a profit to a certain degree, but when it comes to vital care, I think that should be non-profit. Because the profit motive is to make money, to make a profit. Now, if that were the only thing in making money, and also to cure people and make people feel better and do a lot of preventative care and all that, that's fine. But when there is a profit incentive to not find a cure for a disease, but continue treatments and putting people on drugs, that's one of those things that bugs me. Because when you have seniors when you have seniors debating between whether they buy food or prescriptions, I'm sorry, I'll take a tax hit if because I hate to break it to you, generally speaking, they busted their ass. They put money into the Social Security system. They depended on it. Because back then, when they were young, it was solid. You see, there is a certain element in the far right that believes Social Security is dare to even touch it. Dwight D. Eisenhower said any political party that tried to get rid of Social Security would be destroyed. Well, guess what? The Republicans are trying to get rid of Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. And it's not because they're breaking the country. It's because their buddies that are feeding them political funds to run their campaigns want to profit from everything. They want a privatized Social Security system where you're gambling on the stock market because more money in the stock market means more profit for them. You see, it's all about money for them. Politicians, these gigantic rich billionaires. Not all billionaires are bad, don't get me wrong. But we're losing our humanity when you have people who should really be thinking, hey, it's not such a bad thing if you get treated for cancer and, you know, maybe, just maybe, it doesn't when it comes to disease like cancer. I watched my mom die of cancer. If it can save a 30-year-old who's suffering from cancer, you know, I'm sorry. It's time we realized something. Here's the thing. Would you rather spend money and little to help somebody that's in trouble. But if you're rich, not all rich people are like this. There are plenty of rich people who are more than willing to give money to charity or to help charitable causes. But not all of them are altruistic. But to me, it's like this. I think we could have it in this country, single-payer health care, and it work just fine. It would be better than they have in England, better than they have in Canada. It would really run well. The only problem is we're so caught up in this idea that it's socialized, that we're demonized with the very word of it, because, oh my God, the red commies are going to come get us and destroy us and, turn us into kids snitching on our parents. Ooh, because they said God in the home. Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on a rant on there, but let me talk about the rest. Louisville won the national championship, which was kind of cool because that means my bracket actually had one Final Four team that won the whole thing, yes, although Syracuse was in there as well and they lost to Michigan on kind of a questionable call, but that's the breaks of the game. As I remember one coach told me it should never come down to a referee. If you never have come to won the game, that ref call should never have mattered. Oh, let's see. Oh, and I'm going to tell you something that I really hate about this county that I live in. We have a lot of positives. Great weather, for the most part. Great centralized location, hour from Asheville, less than an hour from Spartanburg, about an hour and a half to Charlotte, hour and a half or so to Greenville, 4 hours to Atlanta, about 3 to Greensboro. Right in the foothills. The area is not too hilly. It's hilly, but it's not too hilly to where you couldn't put a industry or commercial enterprise or tourist areas. And I'm not just talking about, let's look at these small towns and how they look like Mayberry. Well, it's kind of funny that you got a lot of empty storefronts. I don't think Mayberry had that many empty storefronts, but that's just me. Here's another thing. How can I say this? When you have leadership that basically decides, let's just say there's one particular commissioner who said upon hearing how much one company was going to pay their workers when they opened up a plant, said, you don't have to pay them, that they'll work for like $8 or $9 an hour. Now, let me, and by the way, the guy's name is Brent Washburn. By the way, I live in Rutherford County, North Carolina. Yeah, I added you. And the plant was Mako Marine, which, by the way, had all these incentives, came in, lasted a few years. Once those incentives were up, guess what? They closed shop and moved. Yeah, but let me get back to the point. Isn't it imperative to have high-paying jobs? People make more. They tend to buy more. They tend to bring business, and businesses tend to prosper when people make a lot of money. And when people make a lot of money, that means business people who think, hey, I could go into business for myself. I open a business. Hey, I'm successful. I create jobs. Here's the problem that a lot of Republicans do not understand. Job creators are not necessarily the people who own the business. Job creators are those consumers who buy the goods, who put the money into the business, and to where the jobs are created. You see, it's a circular system. It's not top down. I could win the lottery tomorrow, build a plant, buy a plant or one of these empty plants around here, hire a couple of thousand people, have them make a bunch of stuff. It doesn't sell worth a damn because people don't want it. Guess what? I don't make any money. I go broke. The plant goes broke. Those people lose their jobs. They go broke. Whereas if I make something the consumer wants, the consumers are making good money, and they buy it, it feeds into the system. I make money. The employees make money. They're paid well. They're happy. And the consumers are happy because they're buying goods. The problem, of course, now is for about 30 some odd years is, hey, we can make it cheaper in China. I don't know why corporations don't seem to get this. Happy, well-paid employees means happy, well-paying customers. Because if all the corporations paid their employees a living wage, or better yet, a better than living wage, guess what? People would buy more. People would be more than willing to throw their money around because they have more of it to throw around. That means you have more money coming into the business. That means you can pay those employees more. That means you can make more money yourself and make enhancements to your business to make it even better. But why spend money when you don't have to? Because you're making money anyway. Well, eventually that ends. You see, there's going to come a time when Walmart's going to get a very rude awakening. It may happen 10 years from now, 20 years from now, or maybe even 5 years from now. But people are tired of going into a store and seeing empty shelves or disorganized shelves or, a store complete mess, not being able to find people to get them the proper help that they need. When you have to go to Shoes to get somebody to mix paint for you. When you have to go to grocery to get somebody to make keys and automotive for you. When you have to go to jewelry to get somebody to get you a gun out of the sporting goods cabinet. And by the way, not necessarily at mine, but I've heard some stories about other Walmarts. Yes, by the way, I do have friends that work at other Walmarts, friends that certain people don't know about. Yeah, I've heard plenty of stories. And customers are not happy. But yet, Walmart's attitude is, well, they're going to come into our store anyway. What if they stop? What if they decide, I'm sick and tired of it. I'll go to another store and pay a little more, just that I can get good service. It's happening already. The only reason Walmart's not hurting anymore is because Target hasn't decided, or Costco, Target hasn't decided to go into smaller cities, smaller towns. Costco hasn't gone to full retail and spin off a division, put it into full retail, because I guarantee you this, if Costco were to build their own version of Walmart supercenters and run them the way they run Costco, Bentonville would be shitting bricks. Pardon my French. They would be scared because Costco's got a good reputation. Their employees are friendly. Their employees are good. They're knowledgeable. They're well paid. They've got good benefits. They're happy. Happy employees make happy customers. You get what I'm saying? But at Walmart, they got to keep payroll down. Management is given bonuses to keep payroll down. Which means that, hey, I can run my store in a way that is bare bones, but hey, these idiots are buying my shit anyway. Pardon my French again. Why do I care if I have nobody in housewares or health and beauty aids or grocery or menswear or anything like that? So what if it's all, the clothes are all strewn around, We'll just get the morning people to work their tails off and straighten it up and zone it up, as they like to call it, and put out the new stock and do all this, that, and the other, and work them to death. You see, this is the problem that businesses don't understand, especially in retail. You want people to work hard for you, but you don't want to kill them. You don't want to overload them. There's this idea that you got to give 110%. Well, you want to have them give you 110%, but you want them to do things that are within reason, to where it gets done right. It also gives them the opportunity to do more stuff. Maybe that wasn't assigned, but stuff that they need to be done. But unfortunately, it seems like these companies want to do more with less. Because, hey, payroll's expendable. People are expendable. Payroll's the one thing you can cut. You can't cut electricity. You can't cut a lot of stuff, but you cut people. Because dare we raise prices because people will scream bloody murder. Hate to break it to you, but people are still buying milk. Hate to break it to you, but people are still buying bread. Look how expensive that shit is. Pardon my French again. It's ridiculous. And for people to say that, the government's out to get us. The problem is people. The government's not the damn problem. It's the corporations. It's corporate America that wants to streamline everything. You think big government is bad? Big business is even worse. And that's what we have in America. Big business that just wants to ruin your lives. You don't have to fear big government. You have to fear big business. That's the problem. And they're just as bad. And here's the thing. Big government, you can vote those people out. Big business, you don't necessarily can do that. Oh, John, you can vote with your pocketbook. Not could, but it's not nearly as effective as it is with big government. So maybe, just maybe, big government isn't the devil anymore. Maybe, just maybe, that the big government arguers who said big government's evil, blah, 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 the people who were honking that horn were the devil in disguise and wanted you to believe that big government was evil because, hey, why have a public school system that might actually be good if we paid teachers well and actually listen to educators on how to educate children? No, we got to listen to politicians and people who want to make money by teaching your kids and may have a profit motive not to teach them as well as they should. But I don't know, hiring people who don't even have college degrees to teach your children. Think about it. I can just hire this $8.50 an hour person to teach your kid math. Never mind that they've never had any kind of education or anything like that. Oh well, rant over for tonight. We'll start afresh tomorrow. Good night, good luck, and may the good news be yours.